Welcome. Today we're going to be looking at filament. Now you know that you need filament in order to make any 3D print. But what exactly is it? And where do you get it? And what do you need to know about it? Those are the questions we want to look at today. So there are many different types of filament that you can buy. For example, you can get magnetic filament, glow in the dark, flexi, glitter, transparent, wood infused, metallic, but most of these things just tell me some characteristics of the filament. They don't tell me what it's actually made of. So there are many different types of materials used for 3D printing, but the two most common are PLA and ABS. Now those are just using the initials for polylactic acid and acrylonitrile butadiene styrene, fancy chemical names for different types of plastics. So let's learn, when do you use PLA and when do you use ABS? So you probably won't be able to tell the difference between PLA and ABS just by looking at them. They both come on these 1 kilogram spools. They're both made out of a type of plastic, and they look pretty similar to the untrained eye. They also both come in a variety of colors and specialties, so you can get glow-in-the-dark PLA filament and you can get glow-in-the-dark ABS filament, for example. They're also similar in cost. They can cost somewhere between $20 and $40 per kilogram. They could be a little more or less if you get something very special or very cheap, but that's about average for both types of filaments. So where do these two differ? So PLA and ABS, biodegradable. Which one is, which one isn't? PLA is biodegradable. It's made primarily of cornstarch and sugarcane, and so it's much better for the environment than ABS, which is actually a petroleum-based product. Now, along with that, PLA doesn't give off any unpleasant fumes when you are printing with it. So most people say it has somewhat of a sweet smell. I've honestly printed enough, I don't even notice the smell of the PLA at all. ABS, on the other hand, totally different. When you're printing with ABS, it smells like you have taken your entire set of Legos and stuck them in the oven at 500 degrees. It is a very unpleasant odor, and it's probably not very healthy to breathe those fumes either. So if you're going to be printing with ABS, you want to make sure you do so in a well-ventilated area. Another thing, ease of printing. PLA is a little bit easier to print with than ABS. The temperature needed to melt the PLA plastic is less than what you need to melt the ABS. So ABS has to have a higher temperature when you're printing, which means while printing, at least, it's more prone to warping and to have errors while printing, and so you may have to start over. Now, with all that being said, you might be thinking, why would anyone ever print with ABS? PLA sounds a lot nicer, but there are reasons why you would want to print with ABS. ABS has to melt at a higher temperature while you're printing, but that also means it's less likely to melt when it's out in the sun, for example. Now, PLA, if you leave it in your car on a hot summer day, it's likely going to warp. Now, it's not going to melt like a pool of liquid plastic, but it is going to change shape a little bit, and especially if you had tight-fitting parts, it will no longer fit together the way it did before. ABS is also more durable. So not only can it withstand heat, it also does better withstanding water, impact, crashes, those sorts of things. And so that's why ABS is often preferred for things that you create that need to be strong, or for things that are going to go outside. PLA, over time, is likely to become brittle. If it's exposed to water, it's likely to become brittle, and it's going to break more easily. If you drop it on the floor, it might break in pieces. So which type of filament should you use then? General rule of thumb, stick with PLA. It's easy to use, it's better for the environment, it doesn't make your house smell like burnt Legos, and it's generally suitable for almost any home use of 3D printing. Now, obviously, occasionally you may have a reason that you know you need something more durable, then you can go to ABS. but most of the time I print everything in PLA. Now, one other thing you want to watch for is the size of the filament itself. So there are two different sizes of filament available. There is the 1.75 millimeter diameter, and there is 2.85, sometimes referred to as 3 millimeter diameter. And you want to make sure that if you have the Creality Ender 3 printer, that you always get that 1.75. The 2.85 will be too large and won't fit into the printer. So where can you find 3D printing filaments? Where do you buy it? We usually order all of ours online, so you can find it from places like Amazon or eBay. You can also order it directly from a manufacturer like Matter Hackers or Hatchbox or Prusament. Locally, if you wanted to try to find it in the store, the best place to check would be Joann. They sometimes carry filament as well, so you might be able to find some there. So you might be asking, does the brand of filament matter? There are lots of different brands of 3D printing filament out there, and generally I would say no, the brand doesn't matter. We have used several different brands and have had good, consistent results from them. We've used Hatchbox, Prusament, Gizmodorks, Matter Hackers. All of those have worked really well for us. The only brand that we had consistent issues with was Amazon Basics, and so I would probably steer you away from Amazon Basics, but other than that, we've had good results with several different brands. However, before you go and buy a whole bunch of one type of filament, you might want to try it out on your printer first and make sure it works well for you. So you might be wondering, how much does 3D printing filament cost? Well, 1 kilogram spools like the ones you see here behind me generally run between $20 and $30. If they're specialty filaments or if they're very high quality, they can run quite a bit more though. So this here is Matter Hackers' website. We have ordered filament from them before, and you'll notice I've gone to the 1.75 millimeter PLA filament, which is what I need for the Ender 3 printer. And you'll see at the start, I'm going to see the Pro Series, which is about $42 per spool. I assume that's very high quality, but I don't know because I've never used it. We always scroll down and look at the Build Series, where we can get the filament for about $20 per filament spool. We've always been pleased with the quality of this and have had no real issues. And you'll find similar results if you go to Amazon or eBay or any of the other filament manufacturers. How long does a spool like that last? It depends a little bit on what you're printing. If you're printing small things like boxes or toys, then a spool like this is going to last you a very long time. However, if you're printing super large objects, you can go through a spool fairly quickly. So you can buy packages where you have smaller spools but multiple colors, and that might be a good idea to look into for getting started. So hopefully that answered most of your questions about filament, and you can start printing.